on June 13th, 2009, literally 6 months to the day before I turned 40, I won my first triathlon. It was a sprint distance triathlon, which is a half a mile swim in open water, 12.4-mile bike ride in the mountains, and a 3.1 mile, aka 5K run to finish it all out. I won. Mind you, I came in dead last. Like before I turned the last corner of the last leg, the my then husband told me the guy was about to roll up the little rug that you had to run across so you could get the time on your little device on your ankle, right? But you know what? From that day on June 13th, 2009 to this October 2025 date, over 15 years later, you can't tell me I did not win. So, before I get into the definition of that win, I wanted to start by saying thank you, thank you, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. This is the third installment since the launch of We All Win podcast, the rebrand of what was formerly Her Power Hustle, launched back in 2015, 10 years ago. I want to thank you, the beautiful messages I've been receiving, the support and bolstering of my spirit and my soul for taking this on and picking the mic back up. I want to shout out Zazie and Stacy because your messages just bolstered me. I'm going to be really honest. It's easy for me to be like a thug, a bully, a motivational bully out here in the streets for you. However, sometimes I'm a human, right? I'm human all the time, but sometimes I do feel like, was this the right thing? Is this the right step? So in any chance you get to be an edifier, please do edify other folks. And I appreciate those of you who have been edifying me this week with me sort of rolling these out a little bit, back to back to back, just so that we can get some of those niceties out of the way and then roll up our sleeves, which we're going to start to do today for sure. And when We All Win podcast is specifically here to provide you with a heaping dose of inspiration and motivation. It's no longer like I have really high EQ, emotional intelligence, right? But it wasn't valued for a very long time in our society to have the skills somehow until they created something called the emotional IQ and being able to, or the emotional quotient, be able to tell us what emotional intelligence was, and then all these studies came out about how important it was, right? Everything else was kind of like back in the day, they say reading, writing, and arithmetic was all that mattered, right? And so I want to say that the inspiration and the motivation, we're going to be heavy on that. I am going to also share strategies, tactics, and other information, especially resources, which you'll get a ton of in today's episode. But I want you to know that the inspiration, motivation that I'm sharing is from my lived experience and the women who I've worked with and the people who I've, encountered in my 55 years on this planet. So it's all from my point of view, which may resonate with you. And if it does, I thank you. Please stay. If it does not, please feel fully released, no matter how close we might be, or you might not know me at all, but feel fully released to go ahead and move on to something else that makes your world light up and gives you what you need and pours into you in the way that you need. You don't have to be here. And I want to thank you for those of you who are, but I want you to be here because you get something out of it. Back in the day when I used to post more frequently, especially on social, on Facebook and Instagram, I would get so annoyed when I would see new business owners on their personal Facebook pages sort of just complaining in excess, right? And incessantly about no one buying from them, right? And how no one was supporting their business. And I just want to be really clear that one of the things about this voice that I have and the way I'm using it on this platform to motivate you and inspire you, I want to inspire you to show up for yourself. I want to inspire you to say no to something that does not align with you. because you only got this one life to live. Really, 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 truly. And no one else can live it for you. So please choose to consume. I actually just deleted Instagram off my phone again after I had been off for 10 weeks. The last like 5 days I've been back on, and all of a sudden I realized the energy is draining out of my body, and I don't want to do the things that I know I need to do and want to do to reach my own personal goals. So I actually just took Instagram off my phone again, and who knows when I'll put it back on. Maybe sometime in 2026. It's October 2025 right now. So please don't feel that you have to support me. I feel loved, and the love of the people in my orbit, which could be you as you're listening. And I just want you to know I thank you. So even thanks for checking it out if it doesn't align with you. Okay, enough of that. Each episode is going to contain a little storytelling. I am a storyteller. Context, again, from my own point of view and those of the women who, I've spent almost the last 15 years working with, learning from, talking with, spending time with, and everything that I've covered over the last 20 almost years, 16, 17 years, that where I started with sex and love and romance for women, going all the way through entrepreneurship and professional success. And I've worked one on one with a few hundred women, and my teaching and programs have reached over 20,000 people worldwide. And I will share more about my background on another episode, but I just want you to know that it's a combination, a culmination of sort of, if you've seen The Green Mile, I don't know, where he like, I mean, obviously that movie is problematic with the magical, mystical Negro and all of that, but I digress. The point is that with Michael, what's his name, character, pulling out sort of the different, I guess you would say, negative forces and infectious, viral in a negative way ailments of the people around him because he was a healer. But he would take them on, right? And carry them within himself. And you might even be an empath in that regard as well, where you carry on and absorb the negative and potentially positive things from people. I too am that way. So this is going to be a lot of years of me sort of sharing things that I believe are the gems that I've been able to mine from these beautiful conversations, beautiful opportunities that I've had to work potentially with you in the past, and also with so many other women especially. So that's kind of where we're going to be with this programming. I'll go more in another episode. I am just extremely, extremely excited that you are here. I am not new to this, I am true to this. Okay. And so back to what I was saying about my winning, right? Okay. Here's why I can define it as a win. It is because I defined what my win was, right? So the We All Win podcast is we all, which we talked about on the just prior. I'm saying yesterday because it came out the day before this one is going to release. But whenever you've listened to the Who All Over There episode, we've discussed what who we all is, right? So now the third part is the win. And you may remember President Obama got in huge trouble when he went on to one of the late night talk shows. And he kind of, he has a way of sometimes being a little dismissive, like the trouble he got into with the schools closing in DC and talking about how in Chicago, what did he, they're like the kids in DC are soft or whatever. That was problematic. And also, he got in really big trouble with the Shriver family, aka the Kennedys, because he made a offhanded joke about this is not a situation where everybody gets a trophy like the quote unquote Special Olympics, right? So that thought about we all win can sometimes feel at odds with being competitive. And I'll be really clear, and I've always been clear about this, baby. If it's between you and me, I win. Okay? It's okay to be competitive. However, another way to win is to define it for yourself. and let it be a me against me kind of situation, which was the case with this triathlon. Because let me tell you, there were athletes there. I mean, all these long and lean and lanky people, and people who, had all these trophies, and they, ran in different cohorts and things like that to kind of pull the people out so that you could start and run with people who were kind of like around your time or whatever it was. So, at any rate, none of that mattered to me because my definition of win was not to beat anybody else on that mountain in Maryland that day. My win was defined really simply as two things: one, finishing the race, and two, finishing the race injury free. And so when I came around that corner, when the man had to like stop rolling up the rug and make sure it was flat so I could run across it, and he's clapping, hey, yay, right? I won. Okay. I didn't set a time to beat. I didn't set a person to beat. It was literally me against my mind, body, and spirit. I was in there singing Dora, just keep swimming, just keep literally singing that, whatever. I trained. I read a book. Of course, I read a book on triathlon. I'm actually looking at it on my shelf right now. I still have that book, right? That book, because I'm a perfectionist and I'm going to go ahead and find a book to tell me exactly how to do what it is I want to do, right? My homegirl, she'd run a bunch of different triathlons and she swam in high school and stuff like that. So she helped me with the swimming. I did. I put all the pieces in place to win based on my definition. I stretched. I did all of the things to ensure that my body would finish and finish injury free. And I did, right? And all three of my teenage kids were there with me to look back on that day. They were cheering me on. And there's a picture of me crossing the finish line. I'll put it somewhere, probably on LinkedIn or something. Where to this day, when I look at that picture, I am so filled with pride because I remember how excited I was crossing that finish line. I had a feeling I was dead last. I did not care. I had just moved my body for 16 miles of activity: swimming, riding the bike, and running, walking. Let's be honest, by then I was like sprint walking, right? And jogging. So I really, nobody could tell me anything. But what was really interesting is that even though I look back on that picture knowing I was 39 and a half years old on that June 13th, 2009 day, by the time I turned 40, I had already moved out of my home. I was living in a townhome. My husband and I had separated when then, which led to our divorce. And yet, that was still probably one of the greatest years in my recollection. It's up there because there were things that I did: my body, my mind, my spirit, my conviction, my family relationships, that I knew were all moving in the right direction. January 1st, that same year, I had been laying in bed. I didn't even really know what a triathlon was or what it involved. And I guess we had family over for New Year's Eve, and I was just laid out horizontal all of the first. And I was in bed. And I was semi-depressed at that point because my husband and I, it was challenging, right? And maybe you've been there yourself where you're kind of, I don't want to go as far as say sleeping with the enemy, but you're in a situation where I don't think this is it. But then you feel like, dang, I am in really deep. So I'm not sure, right? Like I said, three teenage kids in high school at the time, right? Um, but at any rate, that January 1st of 2009, I was laying in bed. I had already started, working on my health and fitness, taking a lot of Zumba. I love Zumba. Anybody else Zumba? I love Zumba. Anyway, taking Zumba. And with that, I was able to learn what a triathlon was. And it was the Ironman in Hawaii. And I just thought, wow, that's really, really, really amazing to be able to push your body like that. I wonder if, how many amazing things in your life have ever happened because you thought, I wonder if, right? and then followed that up. But sometimes we say, I wonder if, and then immediately, right, we get that negative thought that says, girl, bye. You cannot do that. You watching these people, you sitting here, you're like still hung over from last night. What are you talking about running a triathlon? But then I did the research and I found out there's something called the sprint distance, right? Which, includes the amount of miles, the total 60 miles, like I said earlier, swimming in open water. Girl, you don't swim, right? It's so easy that those things will pop up and kind of try to talk us out of. And when I say things and people, it's internalized voices, right? Those voices that for whatever reason now it live rent free. Unfortunately, we need to evict them immediately. Like, we not even given 30-day notice, they need to go. But these negative voices will pop up and can hold us back potentially, right? So I'm giving you the opportunity right now to be the sheriff of your brain and go ahead and evict any negative thoughts that you have about anything that it is you want to do, because you can win on your terms, whatever that looks like. And so for me, of course, it wasn't that crazy, whatever. They pay $15,000, I think, to run in that particular Ironman, but I could do the one in Maryland. And we lived in the DC area and, in Maryland and Bowie, and we're able to drive out to the mountains and make it a whole family weekend. It was fun, right? And it reminded me of a scene in Love Jones, right? Y'all know we love us some Love Jones, right? So after Darius and Nina are over at Siobhan and Isaiah Washington's house, and they're walking back, and she quotes Sonia Sanchez poem, a line, a stanza from one of her poems, and Darius says to her, "Is that yours?" And she's like, "No, I want to." That Sonia Sanchez, she makes me want to burn my own notebook, right? And Darius, in his own Darius kind of way, says, "See, it's about reaching your level, not hers." Woo! I just got chill just saying that to y'all. This is about reaching your level, not anyone else's. Okay? So I wasn't on that mountain that gorgeous summer morning to compete against anyone else there. Like I said, there were true quote unquote air quotes athletes there that day. And to this day, I couldn't tell you what any of them look like. I don't know. Yeah, I didn't pay attention, right? I focused on what I had done to get to that day and how I was going to win on my terms, finishing the race and finishing the race injury free that day. They didn't intimidate me because I wasn't racing against them. And I think that if you can take anything away from this podcast at any day, on any given day, is that the only person that you really are competing against is who you are today and who you think you would become if you do that thing that you set your mind out. So that's why when they say it's me against me, it's not even a negative way. It's just who I am today versus who I would be after accomplishing the thing that I think it is I want to do: write a book, launch a podcast, climb a mountain, any of those things, whatever that is. Be the best mommy, shed 100 pounds, gain 40 pounds. Let me tell you something. I got a cousin. Ooh, this girl, she works my nerves. She tries to gain weight. Like, I'm like, girl, I will give you mine for free. We are literally first cousins. What? We share 25% of our DNA. And she is like, oh, I'm trying to gain weight. Michelle, I got too skinny. And I'm just like, girl, bye. Get off my phone. Right? But seriously, I mean, you really can do anything you set your mind to doing. And sometimes society, life, circumstances will make you believe otherwise. But I'm here to tell you that if you need a little boost, replay, like, come selector, run this back and replay this episode. Hopefully, this gives you a little bit of excitement about whatever it is you want to accomplish. This We All Win podcast is not here for you to achieve a specific goal. It's here for you to achieve your goal. right? I'm not here to tell you how to lose weight. I'm not here to tell you, well, how to shed weight, right? Got to watch our language, because if you lose something, generally means you're going to want to find it. So we shed pounds, right? And so I'm not here to teach you how to X. I'm here to support you as you pursue X. And that's the shift of why we're together today. So Jay Z wrote a song years and years and years ago after that whole Faye Dunaway, Warren Beatty debacle at the Oscars, where they announced La La Land had won when in fact Moonlight had won. And so the song was, I think the song is actually called La La Land, and it's the bar, the stanza, right, is like, welcome to La La Land, even if we win, we lose. And that is all about that overshadowing force, that there always, for whatever reason, tends to be some type of dark cloud over a win that we get. So much so that sometimes we hold ourselves back from even trying to win, because it's like, it's one of those things, I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop, right? Don't get too happy, don't share too much, because if you share, probably somebody's going to feel like you're too high and mighty. And we can talk about Icarus and the wings and flying too close to the sun, where obviously a human being, if you weren't aware, actually changed the story. Icarus's father actually told him, don't fly too high because of the sun will melt your wings. But his father also said, don't fly too low because the salt water, the waves, etc., would weigh the wax wings down. And for whatever reason, somebody decided, no, we want to tell people not to be too uppity, not be too base, not to try to hold themselves back, right? So hopefully that came out right. Basically, what I'm saying is the takeaway from the story of Icarus is that his father made wax wings, and what we've been fed all of our lives is that by flying too close to the sun, don't get too high, don't be too haughty, don't be too uppity. Don't think too highly of yourself. Don't be too confident. Don't be TOO anything positive, because that is frowned upon, and that will lead to your own demise. Pride goes before a fall in the way things are interpreted and twisted. But when it comes to that particular allegory, that particular story with Icarus and the wax wings, what we don't get told, because someone decided people were too uppity apparently, is that his father also gave him the instruction not to fly too low. And so I'm here to remind you, to be like Icarus's daddy, to remind you, don't fly too low, because you really can win. You can fly high. It will be okay. Okay. And so, with that overshadowing of something like La La Land being called, and them all being up on the stage, when then they call the actors and the filmmakers for Moonlight, which was a predominantly black movie, it got overshadowed. Right, the same thing when Lupita Nyong'o won for Best Actress. Jamie Lee Curtis, of course, opens the envelope and goes, oh my God, I told her backstage that I wasn't going to be able to say her name. Right? So now Lupita Nyong'o's win has this cloud, this muck attached to it, right? So that's very common, and I know that it happens. And my goal here is to acknowledge it, not to pretend like it doesn't happen. That sometimes when we win, people are jealous of us, like how I said at the top of the show just now about how many great things start with a simple question of, I wonder if. The flip side of that, when you go after it, is, who does she think she is? Right? Who do you think you are to do XYZ? Or equally grating on your nerves, or it must be nice. It must be nice, right? When you know you've worked your ass off to get whatever the thing is that someone, oh, it must be nice to have a house like that. It must be nice to have, someone to come in and clean for you. And you're like, I work 70 hours a week. Yeah, if I want a clean house, somebody has to clean it, right? But people will do these things, And I want you to know that I acknowledge that. I see that. I'm here for that. And that's why, you know, I exist on this entire planet, I know, is so that I can help you achieve the goals that and dreams that make your life worth living for you, right? Without any external stimuli. Worth living because you have created the life that you want to live. And so I thank you for being here. I am looking at my notes, and one thing I want to say is that I am going to drop a bunch of resources in the show notes, and I'm also going to say them right after. So it's like some TED Talks, some books, all around bits and pieces of winning on your own terms, right? So, for example, one of the books that I'm going to reference is called Mindset by Carol Dweck. Super old book, super amazingly relevant, right? About how you can make a difference in your life and changes. Another podcast slash YouTube channel I'm going to refer you to is Dr. Tracy Marks, and she's amazing at breaking down neuroplasticity and how our brain functions. And she actually just wrapped up a series on trauma and our brain on trauma. So sometimes we think it's brain fog because of our age, and it's actually residual impact of trauma from a prior period in our lives. But at any rate, I'll be listing them so you have them in an audio fashion at the end of the book, at the end of this episode. And then I'm also going to put links to everything that I do say at the end of this episode in the show notes so that you can click on any of them and take a look and gander and see what works for you. Like I said, it'll be books, it'll be TED Talks, potentially anything else. I have a few things that I want to share. And also, just to share with you that I have, like I said, taken a break off of Instagram after coming back. I've been back for like 6 days. I'm like, nah, ghetto, in the words of Nene Leaks. I'm good. It's really just wearing down my spirit. And so, for you as well, if you think that there's something that you need to cut out, we can talk about no. I really want to share some things about no in a whole different episode so that we can focus on that. But today, I would love to hear from you. If you have a win, something maybe you've only had as a whisper, something you may not have shared with anyone else but your brain and you and me, myself, and I kind of scenario that you'd like to share, please, please, please message me. I'd love to hear about it. You can inbox me on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is pretty much where I live in terms of social. It's the only social media I have right now that I can be contacted on. Michelle White Talbert. Please let me know what you have going on. What's happening in your life, and any way that I can support you as you are approaching what it is that you want to do, going after what it feels like for you to win. You can drop me a message. And also, I want to say that in the next episode, I'm going to introduce to some and present to others a little bit of who I am, how I am embracing winning, and what this season of my life is looking like, and how I am super duper excited to literally call myself a motivational speaker, because I know without a doubt, without hesitation, I can say with my whole chest that my entire purpose on this planet, professionally and in my professional life, is to pour into you and to make sure that you know how amazing you are, what you can accomplish, and that these are not platitudes. If you've ever met me in person, you know this is not bullshit. This is really who I am, because I'm really too crotchety and too New York to lie about this stuff. I don't know why God made me this kind of weird mix of like total hood and ridiculosity, and I'm basically a motivational thug, right? Because I will not let anybody tear you down, and that includes you. Okay, so I want to thank you for the love and support again. And I want to cheer you on, share your wins, your past, present, and yet to come. And also, if there are particular areas that you are working on that you think you can use a little bit more help around, let me know what those are because I can fold in more resources. Like I said, I'm going to share a list of resources in just like less than 2 minutes. So I'm going to close out, and then what's going to immediately follow that is a list of resources. And I will also be linking to all of those in the show notes. So just to wrap things up, I won by coming in dead last. And here it is 16 years, 16 and a half almost years later. And I am still so proud of myself for doing that. And, I keep saying I'm going to do another one. At some point, I will, but also lately, the last 10 years, I've lived in places that have alligators. So, South Florida, and also now New Orleans. I can't do that open swim like I did up in Maryland. And I just haven't figured out the whole swimming in a pool with a whole bunch of other people splashing around me kind of situation. But if you know of a really good sprint level triathlon over here on the East Coast or in the Southeast or in the South, now that I'm close to Texas, even, please let me know. I would love to check it out. And I want you to know that you are safe, you are seen, you are supported, and you are surrounded. I thank you for being here. We all win, baby. It is not just a hashtag or a cute podcast title, it's our lifestyle. Thank you for being here. All right, all right, all right, all right. Resource list to follow. All right, all right, all right. Let me flip these pages. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to just kind of go down the list, just say a couple of words about why I think these are great books or resources for you as you think about what it looks like to win. This is also going over 30 minutes, and that was my goal. That shows wouldn't go past 30 minutes. So this is definitely, we're in the bonus section of the show. The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield, of course, it gets quoted a lot. It is about the muse. The muse is BS. It doesn't actually exist. I actually just recently found out that Mary Shelley, I think her first name was Mary Shelley, who created Frankenstein, who wrote Frankenstein. Apparently, her husband was a hack and he couldn't write and he tried to be a poet. And so the most famous thing he ended up writing was that only those who the muse chooses to visit, this magical, mystical entity, are really the writers. So if the muse doesn't come, then you are not meant to write. And basically what he was saying is he had writer's block, right? And he wasn't willing to push through it. Now imagine being married to a woman who was able to create what she created. So, I'll leave that out there. At any rate, the War of Art is about getting shit done, right? It's a play on words of the art of war. The War of Art is all about pushing through procrastination and whatever may be holding you back in terms of gunk in your mind. I mentioned also on the show already Mindset by Carol Dweck. It is a book that she is a social scientist, and so she and her colleagues studied the way in which a mindset is required to achieve and learn and grow. And it's like sort of the grandmother of all this conversation now about neuroplasticity and what it means for kind of rewiring our brains. So she did it from the perspective of looking at what is it that makes someone be able to pull themselves up, quote unquote, by the proverbial bootstraps, or to experience a loss but still win, to have setbacks and still be able to win, which of course goes right into the TED Talk by forgetting her name, and I thought I wrote it down, but at any rate, on grit, right? So I'll go ahead. I think she made a book and a TED Talk. I've only looked at the TED Talk on Duckworth for grit. So we have War of Art. We have Dr. Tracy Marks' podcast, who I mentioned already. And I keep saying podcast, but she's on YouTube. So you'll want to check her out. And Carol Dweck with Mindset. Also, with regard to thinking through just Navigating Life. This is sort of an autobiography, more recent, called I'm Highly Percent Sure by Caroline Wanga. You may know her when you see her if you're not familiar with her name. Very, very colorful Kenyan American woman who was she was the head of Essence for a time. Very quietly, it appears, and here I go with the T. Here we go. Very quietly, it appears she's no longer at the helm of Essence. However, she is an amazing speaker, and I'm highly percent sure really was actual Angela Duckworth. That's her name. Sorry about that. Angela Duckworth, who did the TEDx talk on grit. And then I'm highly percent sure Caroline Wanga, definitely her story and her challenges with mental illness. And the book is excellent. I thought it was excellent. I actually listened to it. Her dad, her mom, she had other people actually speaking in the book, and I thought it was really good. And on the line of autobiographies, Will by Will Smith, I thought was excellent. I do have the hard copy. I love it for the pictures. I listened to it. I did not read it. I listened to it. However, I do have the hard copy and the audio book. It is that good, and two totally different experiences. Also, semi autobiographical, which I think was a surprise. I don't even remember how I ended up listening to it, but I absolutely love it. It's called Bamboozle by Jesus by Yvonne Orji. You know her from Insecure. And so Yvonne Orji wrote by Bamboozle by Jesus, which I love it because it's sort of this faith-based walk through her life and the decisions and the choices and how you end up, being the child of Nigerian immigrant parents to then, having all these opportunities in Hollywood. And I mean, very traditional parents. Like, you have to break away from being able to be a doctor or an engineer to be an actress, right? I just a few days ago finished Edwina Finley's new book about your God dream. The world is waiting for you. I'm going to link to that. It's excellent. I really Okay, so let me backtrack a second. It's excellent because I love how she infuses scripture into it. Her story is also very interesting, and the way she manifests, and I really enjoy reading about that. Will you learn a lot about how to structure your life that you might not already know if you've done any kind of sort of self actualized readings and a lot of that self help work? Potentially, no, you're not going to learn anything new. But it made me think about how I found out about her, which was by watching her on Oprah. Talking about her book, and it hit me that Oprah reads all these books, and Oprah could write all these books, right? So when I read it from that perspective of, okay, what can I learn? It took off the pressure of her having to teach me something, or it took the pressure off of knowing, yeah, I get it. I know how that part of it works, but the way you're presenting it, I believe is pretty inspirational, and I like the way you've presented it and how unapologetically Christian and how unapologetically based in her faith that she is. And that makes me like that book very much. So that is Edwina Finley on The World is Waiting for You. Power Moves by Sarah Jessica Roberts, I think, is also still a really good book. Also weaves in a lot of biblical principles. The top 5 regrets of the dying, if that is amazingly not morbid, really interesting, and it makes you really think about, okay, uh, why am I not moving toward where I say I want to be? And if I were on my deathbed, how would I feel about not having done something in my life? And it's the top 5 regrets. So all the regrets obviously are not the same, right? And then thinking through again why you may quote unquote be a procrastinator or why you may be talking yourself out of things. I refer back again to Dr. Tracy Mark's videos on YouTube. I went back for inspiration I reverse ordered her videos to the very first one she posted, and it was 15 years ago and nowhere near as polished as what she's doing now. And sometimes we need to see things like that. So that leads me into the next book, which is Gretchen Rubin, The Four Tendencies. I absolutely love this book. I love that she's able to really be really clear about how our different personality types make, by being aware of them, enable us to be able to put the strategies and the tactics in place to get things done, right? So, of course, I could go into atomic habits and tiny habits and things like that. I'm not going to link to those just because this list is long already, right? But those are some other, like reading Gretchen Rubin will get you there. And then if you want more information about how to form habits or any other particular type of book, please do reach out to me. We can talk about sort of the financial side of things. We can go into love and relationships and any kind of suggestions that I have about that. And then also with regard to how we are navigating our current times and sort of pulling from the inside out as things are trying to come outside in. Dr. Raquel Martin is also very good with her social media. She's heavy on Instagram and probably means she's also on TikTok. She is very good at putting together videos that break down how we may be responding to external stimuli, especially in these times. I posted something by her just last week when things happened in Utah, and she was very clear and clear-eyed on her explanation of how we may be feeling a certain way while other people are telling us how to feel. Um, I think that that's it for now. I definitely have more written down, but I feel like this is a lot. Okay, so again, I'm going to put everything in the show notes so that you can link to them. But if you have any questions, anything about money, your body, all different kinds of things with regard to how you can win, please reach out to me. I love sharing resources and connecting you with what you need to ensure that you win. All right. So thanks for staying. And please, feel free to refer back to this section. This are the last 10 minutes of the show. And again, we all win. It's not just a hashtag or a cute podcast name, it is our lifestyle. See you next time.